Okay, I am live. Hello, everybody. Now, this is going to be the first of, I hope, many call-in shows where all of you, all the followers, everyone who is in the Truth or Culture can come on and talk about and vent anything, anything at all that has been plaguing your mind, intrigue, let's say. Now, the group chat is running there, and I will be posting a link soon for people to join me here to have a talk. If you want to do that, let me know in the chat. And as people start coming in, I'll remind people of that point. But before we start, I was going through an old book I had, which quite suitably for a book about brainwashing seems to have an all-seeing eye on the front. So take everything this book says with a pinch of salt for that very reason. But it seems fitting that considering we're always talking about being brainwashed 24/7, the all-seeing guy is going to have to be present. Before I was saved, but there's a poem in here which interests me when I was skipping through it, because I realized it's a perfect analogy for the pain, confusion, and anger we can all feel knowing the truth. Be butchering the name of the author of this, but it was written over 2,500 years ago by a tradition, not sure how you pronounce that, but storyteller of tragedies in Greece about 2,500 years ago. And I think his name is pronounced Eucalus or Aeschylus, and it's from the Oresteia Agamemnon. Now, for some context, the prophetess Cassandra is warning of the dreadful events about to overtake Agamemnon and his family. This is the warning. A dark weight in the air. I am suffocating. My heart labors and staggers. My blood has thickened. Some horror is close, some evil, settling cold on the skin. Knowledge of it is weakening my whole body. I cannot argue it away or escape it. Common sense, plain reason cannot get oxygen. Trying to wake up in the waking nightmare, I cannot wake up. I am still sleepwalking in it. Now let's think about this for a second. I think that hits home. It hit home for me anyway when reading it, because this is an example of how even 2,500 years ago, appreciate and understand a feeling or a sense of impending doom, that something terrible is about to happen at any moment. And no amount of preparation, realistically, is going to sufficiently work to save you from whatever's coming. Or at least that's what the non-religious, pantheistic ideology was at the time. And I guess with that message of despair, as a Christian truther, I want to make it clear, we have hope. The light at the end of the tunnel, per se, is that we have God on our side throughout all of this. Now, the Greeks and those who look back on the pantheon of gods during that time believed the people were the playthings of the gods, and that we were just simply having our strings pulled for their own amusement as we argued, fought, and loved with one another. Now, knowing what we know about demons and how they run the world, that isn't too far from truth. Spirits possess people. The spirit of anger, the spirits of rage, lust, shame, depression. The list, well, the list literally goes on. But spirits possess people, turn them against one another, make them move and act. But for those who know the truth and have researched the conspiracy, I'd like to think most of the strings that pull us. And it can be difficult once your strings have been cut to know what to do. Because many of us have become very accustomed to letting ourselves be pulled left and right, backwards and forwards by another force, forces we've never played or acknowledged the existence of, forces of ideas, beliefs, obsessions, addictions. But now we're aware of them. Responsibility is in our hands once again for our actions. And we need to be careful. Now, I'm here doing this show today because I understand there's thousands, hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people in the world right now in 2017 who have used the internet as a valuable resource for the past 15 years, conservatively, to learn the truth. Very difficult, or at least most, to cope, to deal with these facts, and to know just what to do with them. So, come on to this show, talk about it. Now, you might have noticed I'm in a shed. You know, I'm in a shed if you hadn't noticed. And this is a shed I've practically grown up in my entire life. It's where me and two very close friends growing up, Liam and Adam, would spend hours into the morning drinking wine, smoking cigarettes, and just talking. Not playing games, not watching TV or catching up on the latest Netflix series. I mean, literally talking about hard-hitting, deep subjects any teenager needs to get his head around in order to orientate himself in this world. Beliefs. Now, Liam was the logical-minded computer technician, which is what he is now, funnily enough. Adam was more of the out there, free-loving, ultra-left, all is relative mind, hedonistic in its sense. And then there was me in the middle, who took points from both, but could never really commit to it being so extreme on either side. But through doing this for about 6 to 10 years, we managed to iron out just who we are, what we believe, and we also learned to think. Something schools don't really teach you, and something you can only gain with others. You don't really know what you believe until you hear yourself say it out loud. Now, I often have this problem on a side note where what I say doesn't sound as eloquent as how I thought it was in my head, which is why it's good practice to say things out loud, which is probably why I started this channel to begin with. But I want you, the listeners, to come on here 30 seconds or for 30 minutes just to talk about what you've discovered, what you've found, what pulls your strings or has been pulling your strings. Now I'm going to try and go over to the group chat here and see if anyone is available or if anyone has said anything in particular. But while we're trying to sort this out, there's something I promised I'm going to discuss very briefly, something that I've recently discovered, which you might find quite interesting. And Wake Up to Reality has asked me to say this, and I thank her for the suggestion. And that's the topic of transvestigation. Have you heard about this? Now, obviously, I remember Paul Romano from Pockets of the Future's YouTube channel talking about how Michelle Obama is actually a tranny. I think Joan Rivers had come out saying this herself on camera. Like, oh, she's a tranny. She's a tranny. We all know. It's okay. Obama's a man. And no, that's well, that sounds outrageous to most people. And at the time, it was an outrageous claim, but hell, I've made some outrageous claims myself, so me and many other people who think like me probably wouldn't have dismissed that claim outright. And I kind of put it to the side in the bank as interesting and peculiar. Could be true. And then recently, someone called Mr. E, and there's another channel as well whose name I cannot remember right now, but they've become rapidly popular talking about something that they now call transvestigation. I love that name. Fantastic name. And he's been exposing how transsexuals are everywhere in our media. Male to female, female to male transitions. These bizarre Baphomet-style androgynous beings have been running our entertainment industry, pulling our strings, you might even say. And it's fascinating. And if you haven't heard already, I suggest you look into this transvestigation. Now, it fits in perfectly with the agenda, of course. I mean, come on. Baphomet himself is an androgynous being. Lucifer can be both seen as female and male. And it would make sense that if they run the industry, these evil forces, wickedness in high places, shall we say, that they would want to try and program us to be more like them. Crass or not too nice to say these things. I'd never really watched much TV myself growing up, but I know many people worship these idols they see on television and even lust after them. How many young men have been lusting after what they believe are men their entire life? Sorry, believe they are women their entire life, but are actually men. Think about how sick and disturbing that is. How has that warped the minds of my generation, of every generation, it seems, because this appears to have been going on for a very long time. Anyway, that's one topic I'd like to discuss there. If anyone has anything else they want to share on that, please say so in the chat and I'll read it out. If you want to come on, make it clear, let me know. You could send me a £1 super chat just to get the attention of as little as you want. But that's a good way to guarantee I'll actually see you want to come on. But other than that, let's have a look at the chat now and see what people are saying. Reality says, creepy clowns are becoming mainstream now. There is a horror circus coming to our town soon, so the children are well prepared for what is to come. Demon Realm coming to our dimension. Now, this is actually a play on something I guess brought to the attention of people because I hadn't seen anything about this before I made a video. But I believe, and I think I've made a solid enough case now, I've made about 8 videos trying to describe this, that demons, or we'll say demons for now, just to sum it up, look like clowns. Crazy, bizarre thing, I know, to understand, but I'll give you a quick summary now. Now, the idea is that the giants once roamed the earth. We called them the Nephilim, or at least biblically grounded, that's the name we gave them, the Nephilim, the offspring of fallen angels who came down and mated with Cain's progeny. A bit of extra information there from Gary Wayne's research. But the children of Cain, who were rebellious and blasphemous towards all the 7 sacred sciences, decided to allow the fallen angels, who were going against God's plan, to mate with their women. The result was monstrous, ever-growing giants, which became prideful, evil creatures. Hubris is a good word. They believed they deserved to be worshipped as gods, and many of them were. But one common description of these Nephilim is that they had white porcelain-style skin, usually red hair, long, scraggly, or in whatever shape you want it to be, large, elongated skulls, and they were cannibals. Now, when you compare that to the stereotypical clown that we've created today in the 21st century, well, a clown has white skin, wild red hair, and red around the mouth and nose, a lot like a cannibal probably would have, or at least a carnivore. But as I understand, the giants were peaceful relatively at first until the humans ran out of food for them, and then the humans became the food. Sounds about right. That's how any dominance hierarchy would work. And what are you going to do against giants? Now, let me explain. The Nephilim became demons after the flood. That's why God sent the flood. Let's wipe all these monstrous giants off the earth and save the only humans that are left. Because a lot of humans at that time were making deals with these fallen angels and the Nephilim to become superhuman themselves, becoming more Nephilim, I suppose. Now, there were many types of Nephilim, but the one specific well-known type is this red-haired, pale-skinned monster. Wiped out by the flood, they became disembodied. But their soul, or Nefesh, as it's described in the Bible, was never meant to exist. It isn't from on high, from heaven. It wasn't brought down from God to the earth. Their soul essentially comes from the earth and is still here. It never left. And these are the demons that haunt people and terrorize them today. You consider them the foot soldiers here on our plane in just a slightly, I don't want to say higher dimension than us, but they're here with us, just disembodied. And they certainly hate us. They want their bodies back. They want our bodies, if possible, if we'll let them in. The name of Jesus Christ and the power and authority in his name will prevent that from happening if you stay vigilant and on top of it. These are the people who pull our strings. And yes, I believe they look like clowns. Now, funnily enough, on this topic, I don't have the book with me, sadly, but I've got another video coming up if you're interested about this, about the carnivals that go through Europe called Prince Carnival. And it's actually a long festival in Switzerland, I believe, where many people dress up as these pale-skinned giants. They put giant masks on, and they get up at 4 a.m. and play incredibly loud music through the streets. And it's a full-on pagan festival everyone takes part in. But the main focal point for the whole thing are these grotesque monsters people choose to dress up as. So that's something coming soon, and I'll bring more information to you on that. Let's go back to the chat here and see what's going on. Wake Up to Reality says, without accepting Christ as your savior, you're lost. I agree. Not all truthers do. There's a New Age sect of truthers on here, which I was originally a part of, which are still going strong. And it's going to be a struggle and a battle forever, I think, until the end, to convince them that Christ is the answer. But that's why we do things like this. Exposed Secret Societies on the clown topic says, the movie It, right? Movies and shows are brainwashing the young into false paradigms. I think a lot of these conspiracies are truly just in our head. But at the same time, being conscious. No, yeah, well. Predictive programming is one thing. But to show these clowns in movies isn't necessarily predictive of anything particular. I think it's just the truth wrapped in a lie, even though they're not really lying. I mean, I remember reading the book It. I think I was 14 or 15. It was like this thick or something stupid, tiny writing. I probably got halfway through it, but it was disturbing and sexually graphic. I remember that. Then I watched the film, and Pennywise the clown is a spider demon. And this is something else I found interesting is the cartoon series Spawn, if you ever saw that, had a character which was called the Annihilator, and the Annihilator was like this fat, horrible, disgusting pedophile clown. It wasn't a nice cartoon, it was very graphic. But this pedophilic, disgusting, short, fat clown monster had an alternate form, his ultimate form, we'll say. And it was a vicious bug spider thing, not unlike Pennywise the clown, who turned into a giant spider as well. So I think when you see confirmation like that of a reoccurring theme manifesting itself into art, I think that probably could be very real characters which are disembodied, manifesting themselves in the real world in a two-dimensional way, like a cartoon or a film, let's say. But rest assured, these things are real and do want to be here physically, not just in 2D forms of artwork. This world is mysterious. We need to be open to these ideas more, I think, of how they can manifest. CERN seems to be attempting to do what they can to make this happen. They openly call or say Scientists have found a way to communicate with beings on the other side of a veil here on Earth, and they will teach us great things, or something like that. Shadowing back to the days of Noah, where the Cain's progeny, should I say, was working with demons and fallen angels to make themselves technologically more advanced, while perverting the 7 sacred sciences which God had originally taught to Adam to use for good. It sounds to me like that's just happening again. Back in the day, there were no good people left. Seth's line, I think by the 6th generation, had become fully corrupt and was just as bad as Cain's generation. It survived for 6 generations, but by the 7th generation, which I think was Noah's generation, that's when the end came, because there was no one left to save. We have a promise that won't happen again. There won't be another flood, but this earth is not going to last. Now, in terms of time scales, I don't want to say when. I just know how. And from what I can see, I'm not totally sure we can really reverse what's happening. Biblically speaking, we may have to just get our souls and minds in order and just do the good work until it's over. Every knee will bow in the end. Let's rest assured knowing that, at least. Exposed Secret Society says, reality, I think it's possible to manifest things into your world if you believe it hard enough. Yes and no. I get what you're saying. It's kind of like The Secret, though, isn't it? The New Age philosophy of the idea that if you want it hard enough, you'll attract those things to you. And, that is true. I believe that is just the way the world works, so you're right. But don't believe that's a good thing necessarily, because some people believe and want terrible things in this world. It's not all good, trusted with that knowledge and power as a man, as corrupt as we are. I don't think so. I mean, I think as corrupt as we are already trying to manifest something terrible, and I think CERN's a good example of this. All the technologies to try to get into people's minds and merge them with machine, which would obviously give all the power to the enemy, who could simply switch us off whenever they want, or cause pain whenever they want. And when I imagine these type of concepts, the remembrance of there was much wailing and gnashing of teeth, people will wish for death, but death will flee from them. I'm seeing parallels there to this story, and I think that's something we should be wary of. Now, as I was saying, I don't know when, but I know how. Maybe we can slow down the process and just enjoy what we have already before it completely gets annihilated and we have to go confront God himself and answer for what we've done. Or maybe it's already too late. I don't know. What do you think? Let me know in the chat. Call in if you want to have a talk about this yourself. I'm going to leave the link in the chat room now. I think I've yapped on for long enough. Here we go. And feel free to try and hop in at any time and we'll have a talk. I'll try and keep it to one person at a time. Once we've got a few people in, maybe we can have a conversation together. Like I said, this is a therapy session for everybody. And it's good to talk to people about these things. And hopefully it'll make us all feel better by the end of it as we're watching this world go down the pan. So let's have a look here then. Mike says, bodies with no souls to fight with are the ones they desire most, them demons. That's right, but demons go for the most soulless and the most open. If you leave yourself wide open and it's easy to get in and you don't have to deal with the burning fire of Jesus, I'm pretty sure the demon will go for that. So, it's something to always bear in mind. It looks like KJ Osborne's here from The Scariest Movie Ever. He says he'll be back soon, starts the job in a few months, back and working on Saturday nights. So yeah, obviously, as you know, YouTube has been hit hard recently with money, and people who have been making money for the past few years, it seems like that's been taken away from us, which is harsh and rough. Now, myself, I only made about £20 a month, and I would need £60 before I got anything. So every 3 months, I got a little sum of £60. That is gone. Now I earn about £5 a month. Half of my videos have disappeared if you put it onto safe mode. And every week now, one more video gets demonetized. So it seems I must be doing something right. Luckily, I have a job. Prepared for this. I always knew it was coming. And God has looked after me, and thankfully that job has kept me mentally grounded as well, because now I can still interact with human beings on a normal level, and that's something we kind of have to practice. It looks like someone's just jumped in. Let's have a look here. Sorry, I'm juggling two screens at once. I've got a couple of people in here.
Two of us joined, yeah.
All right, cool. Well, who wants to go first then? Shall we? Who jumped in first? I missed that, sorry.
Not sure.
All right, well, JJ, you're there. Do you want to, anything you want to say today? Anything that's on your mind? Anything you're sick of hearing? Anything you really want to hear more of? Now's your chance, man. Go ahead.
No, I just wanted to compliment you on your Nephilim clown videos, man. It was pretty awesome. I thought.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. I really do.
Also, just coming to Christ and all that kind of stuff, that's pretty awesome too. It makes.
Of course, yeah, Pat.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty great. I hadn't seen you do a live stream yet, so I was like, man, I'm gonna check this out. But no, I ain't got much time. I'm at work, so I just wanted to jump on and say hi and compliment you on your great work on the Nephilim clown things. I didn't see it at first, but after I watched a little bit of it, I was like, man, this guy's on something here. That's for sure.
Do you know what, JJ? That's kind of what it was like for me. I didn't even believe what I was saying when I first said it, but I was like, I think I'm onto something here, and I kind of rolled with it for a while, and the connections just came flooding in one after the other. That's the amazing thing about truth. Once you get onto it, it just gets exponential. And I think that's what the enemy fears the most about people like us, and the idea that we can do such a thing. Anyway, JJ, thank you for your comments. I really appreciate it. You better get back to work.
Yes, sir. Have a good day. Yeah, bye.
You too. God bless. Okay. Expose the secret society. I can only see expose thee, but I'm guessing it's expose the secret societies.
Yeah.
Am I right?
Yeah.
Okay. Good stuff, man. It's your turn. Sorry. Go ahead.
Can you hear me well?
I can hear you just loud and clear. That's fine.
Perfect. Earlier in the chat, you were reading something I was saying. It was the second message was supposed to be a continuation of the first. What I was trying to say was, since we live in a conscious reality, I don't truly believe that this world is a truly physical world. I truly believe it's more of like a conscious base, kind of like a dream state of mind. So with that being said, I think if you believe in something hard enough, it may manifest like these demons. I had a weird experience with someone. I posted in one of your YouTube videos a little while ago where we took salvia. Two of us separately took salvia, but at the same time, and we both had the same experience where we saw some kind of black figure off to the side of us, and it felt like he was pulling us in.
Right, fascinating. I've done salvia myself. I know that was the first psychedelic drug I ever did. I was 16 at the time, so I know what you went through. But describe more in detail what happened to us. Tell the story about salvia. This is something I think people need to hear about. How was that? Can you go into more detail about what happened there?
The drug is a nightmare. It's not fun. Well, we were at the park, and when we took it, we kind of stood there, and after a moment, we kind of rocking back and forth like a clock, like one of those old-fashioned clocks that just kind of tick back and forth. And then to the left of me, to the right of him, it felt like we were getting pulled in the same direction. And I looked over, and it seems like there was it's kind of like this shadow to the side of us. And it was nighttime, but it's like you could see this darker being right there, and it felt like it was pulling us in. And I couldn't really move. I had to jump out of where I was standing just to break free of the high itself. Well, once I jumped, we both got out of the high. So that was really interesting. I don't know if it was some kind of collective consciousness that synchronized in the moment.
Well, what did the figure look like?
it just looked like a shadow, kind of like I would say a portal, not like a figure, like a person, but it kind of looked like a circle in a way. So
Interesting. Yeah, yeah. I understand exactly what you mean when you say you were kind of rocking back and forth, like a force was pulling
yeah,
you in one direction, then you would try and go the other, and then you would suddenly go this way again. But in reality, when you film yourself, you're not actually moving much at all. This is the thing. I filmed my experiences, but I felt this constant snapping back and forth feeling. You know what I mean? Like everything was on repeat in that moment, like frame after frame, and I was in it. And I remember it's kind of like a portal, like you're saying, but I was kind of being sucked through it, and it had layers to the portal as it went, and as each layer went through me, I could literally feel it run through my body.
okay.
That was the first experience I had, and I was so overwhelmed. I was only 16. I've never done any drugs before in my entire life by this point. I've been doing research with my friend on blue light, and we were doing it together, filming each other. Quite atheistically mindset, like, what is this? What's going on? Let's do a proper experiment with this. And as soon as it took over, I went into shock mode because paradigm shattering. What am I looking at? What's going on? And I was scared. I had a bad trip. I even say no on the video, and then I just cover my face for a long time, and I'm kind of moving in a very spasmodic way is a good way to describe it. Literally, like snapping my arms around in weird ways. And it's not a good experience. It's a struggle from start to finish, is what I realized. Like as soon as you're in the high, you're kind of fighting to get out of it constantly.
Yeah,
That's what the experience is, and it amazes me. It's legal. That is a legal high.
I
You
know.
can buy it online, and in shops, at head shops. It's like this. At first, I thought, well, maybe all other drugs are worse than that. Far from it. I've done every other drug under the sun since then. And that drug is like, why is that legal? Why has no one done anything about this?
Yep.
One thing that's interesting as well, it's a standalone plant, a lot like cannabis, isn't it, salvia? And it's just literally the dried leaves you smoke to get that high. And it lasts for about 10 minutes. And DMT too, which is a very similar experience. It lasts 10 minutes, sends you to another dimension, you come back, which I've done. That to me, because we naturally produce it in our pineal glands, was an easy, loving, quite open experience. Though I'm not saying I should have done it or I should have been in that realm, because I didn't know what was on the other side when I was doing it then. I think I was actually friends with the demons then, the more I think about it, so they didn't bother with me. If I did it now as a Christian, I don't think I would have such a good trip. Now, maybe you consider that that's what you get. But I don't know. I think it's deeper than that. Because the world in Salvia, to me, felt like I was allowing a demon to possess me and take over my body. With DMT, it was more like I've opened myself up to allowing a demon to get in, but I'm not quite there yet, if you get what I mean. It seems to be like Salvia, because people talk about the experience of meeting Lady Salvia, this green woman, every time they do the drug, who purportedly gives them wisdom of some kind, opens the third eye or something. But Lady Salvia is a reoccurring entity that always appears for most people when they do Salvia enough. So that makes me wonder, if the demons are bodiless, have they perhaps attached themselves to plants for us to further ingest and allow into our temple?
Okay,
What do you think of that?
that's interesting. The Lady Salvia, the green part, because I'll share one more experience.
Go ahead.
There was a time where when I took the drug, the end of it, I thought I died.
Mhm.
But leading up to that, it felt like my path and my time was unraveling, if that makes any kind of sense. Like I felt I jumped. It's like if my being was set in stone, my journey, my path was set in stone. It felt like I was unraveling from that path, and for some reason, if the world kind of caved in on itself, and then everything went black, and then it faded into this green, kind of like I had no body, and all I saw was like a green screen all around me. And there was this kind of fence, like this grate on the green screen, just transforming into every shade of color there was. So that was kind of interesting. And then I like woke up after that, but
Yeah. It's interesting you say this room with a green screen kind of effect to it. That's something DMT trippers often talk about when I was doing my research into the DMT jesters and the clowns on the other side. They often talk about being in like maybe a black and white checkered room or a fractal type room, like a
Yeah,
box per
yeah,
se. And it is fascinating to imagine something like the Matrix, like that's our vessel we're actually in, and the world around us is probably being projected on the walls of this box, and we think we're moving in the world, but we're actually very limited to these walled perceptions, maybe, which maybe gives credence to what you were saying at the beginning. That the world is not as physical as we believe it is, and I don't believe it is as physical as we've been taught at all. And anyway, I've seen that it's not, by doing these things. Um, to say that our experiences aren't valuable while we're here, I do think it's still all created by God, and it was originally good. Now it's not, and that's our predicament. That's the conundrum mankind is in, if you understand. And a lot of New Agers, I've noticed, like to play around with the nature of the world, and try and, as any good witch would do or warlock, harness the power from this knowledge, in some way to benefit themselves and get an edge over somebody. Mediums is a good example of this, or people who believe they have extrasensory perceptions. But I'm worried now that with the knowledge that the Nephilim are there, and that is kind of their home right now as we speak, the second heaven, we'll call it, if we should be dabbling in these things. If anyone in the chat it disagrees with me completely and wants to scream and argue with me about that fact, I've had many people do it before. Come on and go ahead. I'm welcome to debate these things. What do you think about all of this? Do you think there are demons on the other side and drugs may not be a good thing now, or do you think there's something to offer with them?
I think we need to keep a sober mind. I'm not sure if hallucinogens are a problem with other dimensions. I'm not too sure about all that. But with demons and entities on the other side, I think it's possible. I haven't had too many personal experiences with figures trying to come at me, so I can't say too much about that. But I've seen people lose themselves, and it does seem like they became a whole nother person. I don't want to say they became possessed. I want to say more emotions and dark parts of them took over. And I think that might be what it is. And maybe there is a dark force that converts them on this path.
Well, Carl Jung believed, obviously, and so did Freud, that within all of us is this unspeakable darkness that we all kind of deny we have, but we all have. And life is coming to an acceptance that is there. And if you don't accept that's there, you're naive, and the beginning of wisdom is not within you, essentially. I think a good example is people who suffer from post-traumatic stress syndrome after war. Let's say they've come back from war and they've fallen apart into pieces and can't really understand life anymore. You find that it's not that these people are tough per se and have seen some horrible things. It's that they were naive when they went to war. Capable of. And the people who have post-traumatic stress syndrome have usually done something they didn't believe was possible, or even know they could have done. The most atrocious, heinous acts. They've seen their own peers and comrades on the front line do things to humans which beggars belief. But that's something I think we all have to come to terms with. I think Jordan Peterson talks a lot about this now, this psychiatrist who's kind of come out on the side. And he's giving an archetypical discussion of the biblical stories right now, which is quite interesting from a psychological perspective. And that's something he brought up about the problem of evil. It has to be accepted that it might not all be demonic. It might actually be you. And that's the Bible. The Bible makes that clear. Man is fallen. Cain was only the second from Adam, and he was a murderer. It's not.
Yeah.
That never stopped. Should we say, that's within all of us. We could all kill our brother if it got to that. And that's kind of the scary truth we all kind of have to accept. Because if you don't know that, how can you ever stop yourself from going that far? You know what I mean? You have to know it exists in order to fight the dragon type of thing. But at the same time, because I have done things like psychedelics and I know there's other dimensions, I don't and obviously people have witnessed, there's plenty of testimonies saying, we've seen these weird entities on the other side. I'm going to believe, yeah, there probably are literal entities on the other side, but it's not just as black and white as they're responsible for all the evil in the world. I agree. I think, yeah, we have our part to play.
Yeah.
we should probably take that on ourselves and go, okay, I'm not that innocent, and I know I'm not. Every now and then the evil bubbles up in me too, and I've scared myself half to death whenever that happens. So yeah, interesting. Is there any other topics you want to bring up? I'm going to have a look in the chat while you're doing that. But is there anything at all you've seen recently, maybe in the news, that's riled up your interests?
There was not too long ago, I want to say somewhere in South Africa, there was this possession and a bunch of girls. I think they did in a Ouija board, maybe something as such, and a lot of them became possessed. They were acting crazy. They had to be carried away.
I think was it in the Philippines or something? I know what you mean. It was a bunch of screaming schoolgirls.
Yeah,
and they were all kind of in like a white blouse of some kind, and they were all kind of just being literally carried out while screaming and wailing of classrooms and things like that. Yeah, that is eerie. As far as I understand, it happens a lot more in countries like this, less developed countries, it seems, or countries that are very rooted in pagan ideologies, shall we say. Obviously Christianity is there, it's all over the world, but you find a lot of these countries that don't really know Jesus per se, or more seem to go through these things. I mean, did you ever see that video of the man eating the burning wood? Did you ever see that before?
Oh, I don't think so. No.
No, there's a look for it. Type in "man eating fire" or something like that, and you'll see it. And it's literally some tribesman in some jungle somewhere has a piece of wood in his hand, which is literally on fire, burning. He blows out the fire and just munches it like it's nothing, and he gets a light bulb and eats that like it's nothing. No blood, no cuts in his mouth, not a problem. And when you look at his eyes, there's actually generally slits in his eyes. His pupils are gone and they're green. So I do wonder. What would be the benefits of working with demons? Well, I think that might be one of them.
Eating wood.
There's always a catch. Obviously he's lost his damned in that respect, and he needs to be saved, and I'm sure he's tortured, but the ability to make a man invincible is something these things possibly could do. But why would little girls choose to do these things in a school? Probably ignorance.
Yep, it's all ignorance.
What have they been told to believe it was a good idea to begin with? What do you think?
They're probably taught that, oh, it's just TV and movies, nothing's really going to happen. And being in an environment as such where they don't really have much stability, I think it's easier to be more controlled and possessed in a way. So
maybe I don't know myself. It baffles me why, even if you don't think it's real, why would you bother even trying? That's what I wonder sometimes.
Exactly.
This is where I think, you all know, really, you're all just lying to me when you say you don't believe in stuff like this. I think everybody believes. It's just the responsibility that comes with accepting it's real is scary for most people.
Yeah, that's a whole nother world.
Exactly. And it's easy to just say it isn't real and get on with your sins, I suppose. Oftentimes I wish I could do that. I do wonder, like the guy eating the steak in the Matrix, it's like, can I go back? Is it possible? I wouldn't want to go back really, but it does get hard.
Yeah,
it does get hard, and I want to make that clear to everyone else. Don't be ashamed. You're not alone if you're struggling. Not at all. There's something here which I've written down. Just a few talking points.
Okay.
The rise of socialism recently. Have you noticed this yourself, or is it just me?
No, it's becoming a thing. Yeah.
The revivification of communist ideals and socialism, and the idea of bigger governments, more state control being a good thing. Seizing the means of production, I suppose, and redistributing wealth to those who. I don't know, the victims versus the oppressed type of mentality, and we need to take money off the oppressors and give it to the victims, and that'll make everyone get along. Obviously, this is a tried and tested, failed ideology throughout the 20th century, responsible for conservative estimates, 100 million people, worse than the Nazis, and I see kids literally my age walking around donning communist flags around them, And to me, that's no different than going around with a Nazi flag in the street, yet they seem completely oblivious to this. And I was thinking about socialism, especially coupled with this postmodern way of thinking that nothing is real, everything is relative. All your beliefs and ideas are simply a result of tradition, and tradition isn't real. So if you get rid of tradition, we can build from scratch type of ideologies. It's like there's a name for it, isn't it? Like a duo of death, like them two coming together, just utter destruction. And to me, it sounds purely satanic. It seems to me like a manifestation of Satan's way of viewing things, manifesting in the youth of today, and it panics me. I mean, you may have noticed we had an election in the UK recently.
Yes.
Yeah, and Jeremy Corbyn was the opposition, I suppose, to Theresa May, who's the Conservative Party. Now, I say conservative, their pockets are lined with EU money. They are not conservative. They are just a socialist, although they choose to hide it. They're crypto socialists, if you want to call them anything, who pretend to be conservatives, pro-EU type people. But it was them versus Jeremy Corbyn, who is a full-on outspoken Marxist, basically. And he was all about, full globalization. Let's reverse Brexit. Let's give everyone free stuff. All tuition fees will be cut, promising the world to all these naive children. And he actually managed to get an extra 1.7 million young voters to register. And it scares the crap out of me, because this is my generation and not one of them knows anything about history or understands what Marxism is responsible for. So it panics me. While we're over here in the conspiracy world looking at all the Satanism and, Luciferianism and secret societies, we literally have quite a beast we've already, or at least we thought we've already slain, rising up from the dead and getting its grips and tentacles into the minds of our youth. And it's simply just socialism. And I do think socialism may be the platform, shall we say, which the house of cards of the new age is going to be built upon. So I'm really worried about this, because the ideologues out there on Facebook or the social media, let's say, are out in droves right now in England, berating anybody who has a slightly right of left opinion. The center doesn't exist anymore. If you're slightly this far from the far left, you're a Nazi now in their eyes. And it's dangerous. The division in my country is terrifying, and I hope more Americans start talking about this and paying attention, because conspiracy theorists don't seem to realize, we may need the Americans to come over and save us.
Yeah, good luck with that.
Because on top of that, obviously, we have a growing Muslim problem.
Yeah.
And I might go to prison for just saying that. That's how bad it is. We're not allowed to talk about the problem. Our language is being policed. 1984 style. But we have I'm sure Americans are more open to talk about these things than British people are, so you'll understand. But yet, Islamism is destroying us. Literally,
yes, it is.
It is taking over, and I'm worried, because if we have a strong socialist, atheistic mindset in England, then we don't have anything to fight back against this ideology. We have nothing, because Muslims already believe in God. They're not going to respect atheism or socialism in any way, shape, or form, and they're just going to dominate. If we can't combat their ideas with Jesus and Christianity, the very values that built our Western society, because our children think, well, all that's evil anyway and needs to be dismantled, England's going to fall. There is going to be nothing left by the end of all this. And I may have to come to America, maybe. So if anyone wants to, maybe hearing this, has a house or a spare couch I can come over and chill on maybe for a few months while everything goes down, send me an email. I'll appreciate that. But I do worry. I really worry about the division. And speaking of spirits, while we're talking about demons, one thing I've been struggling with, and I think a lot of people might be struggling with too, so let's talk about it, is the spirit of anger. Now, the spirit of anger has been possessing me, for lack of a better phraseology, for a good few months now, because of all of this, what we've had to go through in the UK. And I have been getting angry, and I have snapped. I'm not going to lie. On Facebook, I've literally told people to shut up, with no argument, because you can't argue with these people. And it always backfires on me, and I alienate people, and I'm kind of being viewed as a bad guy. You know, well, if you're against us, then you're a Nazi. It's basically the view. And you can't argue with stupid like that. There's nothing you can do about that. They are possessed by evil ideology. But I find myself being possessed by just anger, pure rage, actually physical. Like I could hurt people over this type of rage sometimes, and it scares me. You know, I have to reel myself back and try and center myself in God and Jesus again. And, you know, this is something I think a lot of truthers need to prepare themselves for, especially if you've found Christ. It's very easy and alluring to get sucked back into the problems of the world. It's so easy.
Mm-hmm.
It's so easy. And to just forget everything you've learned and kind of maybe put a little bit of faith back into the system in some way, shape, or form. And as soon as I do that, you know, I've done it a couple of times now, being recent, you lose a piece of yourself. And as soon as you open that door again, there's just a line of demons waiting to flood back into you and, you know, take over. It's 10 times worse than it was before, I've realized. But one thing that did get to me, one thing, and something I think I need, especially the Christian audience, to pay attention to is there was this particular person who I've met off YouTube who added me on Facebook. They have their own channel and they do their own thing. I won't say the name, you know, just to be polite. But after I'd had this Facebook argument, I forget that everything you say on Facebook gets plastered on everybody's wall. No matter how small the thing you say is, everybody on your friends list gets told, this person just said something. They haven't said anything in a while. And everyone saw me argue about socialism. You know what I mean? I mean, everybody. And I didn't say some nice things. I got angry, you know, because we're talking about genocide here, and I don't want to die. I don't want my children's futures to die and all these type of things. I want my nephews to grow up and be happy and not in a socialist hellhole. So I got angry about these things. But someone who proposed themselves to be a Christian, who I'm friends with through this, had left a status kind of being all on their high horse, all uppity and judgmental, saying, you know, as Christians, I believe it says we're supposed to be patient, calm, loving, and long-suffering for all people, not name-calling and, you know, lashing out in anger. And it's kind of like, I got angry again. I was like, who the hell do you think you are? You know, first of all, you didn't say it to my face. You did it backhandedly on some Facebook status. So that kind of got me angry as well. And the attitude of this over self-righteous, zealous Christian is the first time I kind of saw that. And I realized I don't want to be that kind of Christian. Someone who thinks they're holier than thou and better than everybody else.
That's a problem I have.
You know what I mean? I don't think I've ever really been one of those type of Christians, although sometimes I can get a little bit overzealous sometimes, but I try to humble myself daily. You know what I mean? I realize, no, I don't know anything at all, really. What do I know on 24, for God's sake? What the hell do I know? You know, I'm doing my best. But that attitude I got from that Christian was more demonic than what anything else was. And I know what they're like. If they hear this, they'll think, well, you know, I'm going to hell and I've done everything wrong and I'm rejecting the truth and all these type of things. I don't know.
I think we feel that way, that we matter more because we're trying so much harder than them trying to come to the truth. So we feel like what we're doing is more important than them, but we're all the same.
Well, that's the kind of what I see it as, you know, and I'm not perfect. I do swear, I do make mistakes, you know what I mean? And I sin on a daily basis. But when I hear, and I know this person does as well. So when I saw them saying that, it's like, come on, like that. That's all I could really think. So anyway, I've deleted them. I've deleted these people off my Facebook. It's kind of, I don't have time. I don't have time to deal with stuff like that. You know, I'm trying to grow up. I hope everyone else would grow up around me, but never mind. Anyway, let's have a read of the chat. It's been a while. May have been said since we last talked. All right. Something about the LGBTQ here. The Bible says to love the sinner and hate the sin. So how do we apply this message socially while avoiding opening where everything and anything eventually goes in society? Well, I think the answer to this is to educate people more on what Christian values actually are, because I think a lot of the LGBTQ has a demonized stigma towards what Christians believe. And it's not actually what they think we think some stuff about them we don't really think. Again, you might have these overzealous, self-righteous Christians out there who want to condemn everybody. But I myself know transgendered people. I actually know them. You know, I speak to them and I understand them. And they're not evil. They're just, sure, they may be I would say a little bit, lost perhaps. But they just lack information genuinely. And I think if you want to talk to a gay person or a transgendered person about Christ, then talk to them as a person about Christ. Like you're on a level with them. Don't talk to them like you're better than them. Just talk to them like a human being. And I find it actually works, And I've actually talked to transgender people about Christ, and to my shock, I didn't see this coming. They said, yeah, I believe in Christ, and they wanted to know what I thought, and all these type of things. So, don't judge a book by its cover in that respect. I mean, what do you think? How would you about the sins of being gay, I suppose? What would you do?
I think it's hard. Trying to talk to them more about a religion and spiritual aspect, I think it might turn them off a bit, but I think that's the way you kind of have to approach it.
Yeah, just do all things in love. That's all I can say.
Yeah.
Look, just because they are transgender doesn't mean they'll never be saved.
Yep.
You never know. All you have to do is be there as a beacon of light for them when they finally come out of that social Marxist dogma they're under. That's all I can really think of saying, really, because the truth is powerful, and in the end, that's all I could say. And so will the crazy ideas. At least that's what I believe and I hope for and I pray for.
About the collapse, well, what are your thoughts about that?
How will it go, or when will it?
Yeah. How do you think it will go? Do you think it's relatively soon?
Well, again, I read that poem at the beginning of this talk, and that was written 2,500 years ago, and even then they had that feeling of impending doom. And we can all appreciate that this world, it will not last simply because of the state of man. Mainly, that's usually why. So if people have been anticipating it for that long, I couldn't say when. Will. How? Who knows? There's many ways it could happen. I think we have a lot to see yet, biblically speaking. The end. I mean, there's so many arguments over who the harlot is and the beast is and all these type of things, and who the Antichrist is. It's kind of still all up in the air. But I do believe we're definitely in the times of Noah. Noah lived for, it was a few hundred years. It wasn't just a short time span. So we don't know. But with this, the rising talks of transhumanism, New Age philosophy, and the merging of all religions to become one through this theology, this theosophy type way of seeing the world, I think we're definitely at the beginning. Birth pangs. The world is starting to groan and moan, with pain. Again, with the rise of socialism, I'd like to hope it was maybe 100 years away before we're fully in it, and Jesus is just about to turn up any second, literally. But it could be this is it, and Jesus could turn up at any second, literally, and end it all. So I don't know. I don't think it's useful to live as though it will end, at any second. I think there's still lots of work that could be done, and lots of good in the name of God that can be shown to people. A lot of love still to be given before it's finally done and dusted. I mean, I think we have to see a point where all Christians are wiped off the earth before. And as far as I can tell, there's still a lot of us here. It's growing, in fact, from what I can see. So maybe that's the sign that, okay, it's growing, get rid of them. So I don't know. What do you think?
I think it's a big pickle. To be able to keep this world from not falling apart, I think it's going to be really hard, because we have to convince the ignorant masses that aren't aware of the deception they are under to understand there are evil people in power, the Knights of Malta, the Jesuits, all of them. And we have to convince them that we need to get rid of them. But if these people become aware of a certain powerful truth, they might not be able to handle it, and they might start rioting and fall into the hands of what these people want.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's possible. I think it seems like they want themselves to be known. It seems like they're intentionally making mistakes, or maybe they literally are that stupid and they were always just going to mess up. But
yeah.
but to intelligent people like us, it seems like it's intentional. But I always there's one thing I heard something they'll say which really stuck with me is that it's always best to assume stupidity, and there's something to that. I think there's something to that.
Is there a reason why?
Well, I think we're all too quick, all of us, to assume, especially in our world, in the truth world, to if someone disagrees with us, you know, you're a shill type attitude, especially on YouTube. It's like you're clearly one of them and you're evil and you're working for the devil or something because you said something another group doesn't believe in, you know, or doesn't understand or is opposed to, like the New Ages, let's say, you know, the Christians always going at it. But I don't think people are. No, we have evil in us, but not everyone is evil. Now, we do have these people at the top who know what they're doing, per se. But I think, did they not believe that what they're doing may be for the good of mankind? People very rarely do evil things thinking they're the bad guy. You know, that's usually how it really goes. They think they are doing it for the greater good, you know, or they genuinely believe it's the right thing for everybody anyway, and everyone will like them. Problem with narcissism and psychopathy, I think. Sorry, bear with me 1 second. Okay, sorry about that. But yeah, it fascinates me. I just think we shouldn't be too quick to think evil, like intentional evil, is the drive behind all of this. I think a lot of people think what they're doing is the right thing. Like people at CERN, for example, who work on that machine, they probably genuinely believe we are talking to advanced beings who are going to bring us out of our mess. You know, they probably really believe that. So I do wonder.
Yeah. There's some comments about the flat Earth and alien deception. Do you want to talk about that?
Sure. Well, do you want to read it out? Because I'm not sure what that is. Let's have a quick look here. Have you girls researched flat Earth? So this is JJ talking to Wake Up, I'm guessing. I definitely believe we don't live on a globe. You know what? Think of this discussion with the concave Earth trying to discredit Lord Stephen Christ and his crazy cult he was trying to make over that subject. And you know, I genuinely don't know what the shape of the Earth is. I've always had the attitude, and people hate this, that it doesn't really matter what shape it is to me. Live here right now in this room, and this doesn't change. I still have a family. I still have responsibilities and things to do, irregardless of whether the Earth or what shape it is. However, I am not saying. I'm saying I don't know. I really don't know. I believe it is not what we were told. It could be very non-physical, like you're saying. It could be literally be. It doesn't exist until someone's looking at it. It literally could be that.
Yeah. Oh, let me touch up on that.
Yeah, go ahead.
Because like anyone else, for the longest time, we would believe what we're told in the education system living on a globe. And it's not till you really start to question these things, which a lot of people on YouTube and the internet, for example, are constantly saying NASA, there's a lot of lies and hoaxes in there. And then when you start looking into it, you start realizing, wow, there are a lot of things in here that are fraud, that aren't there. It seems like they're hiding something from us. And that jumps people onto the boat of, oh, Earth actually must be flat. We look out to the horizon and, oh, look, it's flat. It's always eye level no matter how you go. But then there are a lot of other details, what's the word? I was going to say probables, a lot of other things that are not being taken into place according to science that could relate to a concave Earth. But I've been on every single ship. I've been a flat earther. I've been a concaver. I've been a glober. I'm at the point where I don't even want to say what shape the Earth is. I don't know what it is. I've never seen it. It could be anything. Perhaps there's not even a shape. I mean, if you can't get high enough to determine a shape, maybe there isn't one. Maybe it is a quote unquote plane of existence, not necessarily saying it's flat. It could be a straight up conscious creation. That could be the ultimate truth, and that might scare people into truly understanding, wow, this this world maybe actually be a dream state of mind, which I'm currently at. But I'm not determined that it is a non-physical structure to the world. I think it's a possibility. Oh, your mic is muted.
No, sorry, right? No, I sorry, right? I agree. You know, any possibility for me is on the table. I'm not willing to discredit or discount anything. I will literally anything. That way, I'm not surprised when we all find out. You know, I think, but I more to the idea that it's more ethereal than physical. I think the spiritual world and the physical world are here right now in the now. There's lots of these Eastern perspectives about this reality, New Age worldview. You know, there's a lot of truth in the New Age about how the world really works. It's just not something Christians have often looked into or considered as valid, but they seem to have it down. You know, and I do think it's a projection of some kind, perhaps, but like I said at the beginning, the experiences here matter. So if you want to talk about matter and what is matter and what's physical and what's real, the experience is real. You know, that's what matters. There's a way of saying it. Everything is a matter of experience. You know, that's a good way of putting it.
Yeah.
Putting it down. The world is all about that. So we shouldn't discredit because that's the problem. A lot of nihilism seeps into the flat Earth worldview or the holographic Earth worldview, especially if you don't have Christ. It's kind of, well, what's the point? None of it's real anyway. It's and that can lead to some dark places, I think, is that humans shouldn't be in. And I do think it's been used as a tool to get people in that state as well of fear and utter, you know, none of it's real anyway. Nothing I does matters, you know, and it's just as bad as the heliocentric model where we're just an insignificant little dot in a big vast expanse on a little piece of mold on a rock somewhere. You know, it's just as bad as that in some cases. That pessimistic worldview. Well, if the Earth is flat, then we're clearly just some on a petri dish somewhere. Yeah, there's always a way it can go, which is it's just a terrible thing. But I think human history and human experience documented so far has proved serious thing what this is. You know, whatever we're on, it's not at all a trivial matter that can be simply brushed off as just, oh well, it's just all in your head anyway. You know, that's solipsism, and it's not the way I view the world. There's meaning. There's real meaning to this world, and that's what's real. You know, there's purpose, even if we don't know what that purpose is fully. There's a point to all this. It's not just pointless. I'll probably leave it there on that respect.
I think everyone who's trying to find the answers should not pick a side. Truly stay open to any possibility of what might actually the truth may turn out to be. I think we should all try to teach people not to preach flat Earth, not to preach concave Earth, not to preach, oh no, Earth is a globe, because it will further divide us. And I think the best thing we can do is teach people what we can prove about the elites, concepts, ideologies, hence being what you talk about a lot, demons and in the spiritual realm. I think we need to really talk about experiences on what we can actually prove and not what's hypothetical.
I agree. And there are plenty of things immediately we can literally prove to people, and it's worked. It's what got me here. And obviously things like flat Earth and even demons to some extent are kind of the extracurricular activities. You know,
Yeah.
like if you really want to go into it and want to get into the deep end, then go look at all that stuff as well. You know, but that is just not for everybody, and it will not be listened to by just anybody. You really won't. I think it takes a very certain type of mind to accept things like that. You have to be a very open person, you know, to be able to even just listen or humor such concepts. Which I find fascinating. It's mainly artists that are in this culture. You know, it's mainly all the creative types who want to talk to me or get involved in. We're all video makers, for God's sake. You know what I mean? We all like to make YouTube videos, and that's art in its own right. So I think it does take a certain type of person to get that deep, but it's not necessary. the division it's caused. I've literally watched it unfold. You know what I mean? For 4 or 5 years, the division has been terrible.
Yeah.
Like when I first got into this culture, it was quite a strong underground subculture of passionate, angry, pissed off people. You know what I mean? Who wanted to get the truth out, and it's turned into this just bickering and arguing and cliques over here and group identity. Like we're the flat earthers, we're the New Agers, we're the Christians. You know, and it's kind of we're all against each other, and we all have to be right in this respect. Now, I do believe there is one ultimate truth, but we're not going to iron that out by, shooting each other and calling each other a shill. So yeah, there's blurry lines that need to be made clear. I mean, I've tried to have New Agers on my channel in my Theorist to Theorist section. I have talked to many New Agers, not just Christians. Subtle Infinity and Jinx Effect are two that come to mind now. And, this is the thing about my problem as well. I'm not perfect, and I do disagree with a lot of things they say. They grind on me sometimes, and maybe I've not been the perfect host. Sometimes I have tried to voice my opinion back to them, and it's offended them. But I don't really care about offending people. I care about the truth. So I don't know. I guess what I'm trying to say is, in a hypocritical way, is some groups aren't as open to some things as others as well. Like, New Agers really, really, really don't want to hear it's all about Christ. They really don't want to hear that. I've tried, you know what I mean? And it always comes back to, well, you're a white colonialist who clearly is brainwashed by your society's belief systems and patriarchal dominance hierarchies. It's like, come on, stop throwing word salads at me. I just see it for what it is. God is real. Deal with it. And it's kind of, no, they don't want to hear it. They do not want to hear it. They are happy believing they know it all. New Age movement is what gets me the most, really. The hubris, this pride and dominating, we have it right and anyone else who's against us deserves death type of attitude. Even though they won't say it like that, even though they'll all claim they're about peace and love and harmony, like a typical communist, that's not at all what they're talking about. So I don't know. It's also it's a mess. It's a mess.
Yeah. Go ahead. There is this, I don't want to say culture, but there are some people right now spreading this video about it's about Christianity mainly, and trying to label it as occultist. They're saying like Buddha, Krishna, Mithra. There are all these deities way like hundreds of years, couple thousands of years before Christ came to be, who were virgin births, who were trying to preach thou shalt not kill, all the same ideologies that Christ is claiming to.
Oh, the Jesus is Horus argument. It's a classic one, that, isn't it? Yeah, I've heard it many times. Yeah, it's not true. Not one of it. Not one shred of that is true. It was the what was it called? What was the series called? Now I should know this.
Oh, astrotheology.
It was the Zeitgeist. The Zeitgeist popularized.
Oh, okay.
Remember Zeitgeist? It was like an hour-long documentary where this person basically talked about the problems with the money system and the banking system. All true. Nailed it, Talked about the beliefs of the secret societies and nailed it completely. And then he went heavily into Christianity and demonized it and went through the whole, all of these old gods have exactly the same life pattern as Jesus Christ did. Jesus is just a later copy of all these previous gods, etc., etc. What we need to do is all come together under some kind of new age, harmonious one world idea. And it's all about frequency and vibration and love and all this type of stuff. Now, basic fact checking proves none of that's true. In fact, the similarities are trivial compared to the vast differences. Do you know what I mean? But he never mentioned any of those. And half of the similarities he talked about just didn't exist. So it's just a lie. But because the New Agers so desperately want the lie to be true, they never looked further into that claim and that statement. And it's still peddled today, still peddled today. And it's been debunked so many times. Like an unprecedented, like there's more debunking videos for anything I've ever seen in my entire life than for that video. You know what I mean? Saying you're lying, you're just a liar. Like, why are you saying these things? And I think we know why they're saying these things. But again, it depends how deep you want to go. It depends if you want to be a New Age or a Christian about this, because I believe there are only two choices at the end of the day if you want to be a truther. I've made a video about this. There's only really two choices. Do you want to go down and believe you are God, and you're going to solve this problem by coming to some form of enlightenment, or do you want to put your faith in the God that created us? There's two options. You know what I mean? I've made my choice, my faith in my creator. I know I cannot do a damn thing. No, not even anything. I can tell people, I can try my best to wake as many people as up before the end comes, but I accept, no, there's a plan here and things greater than me happening. The New Age believes it's all about them and they're going to change the world. So again, make the choice, people. I'm sure you've made the choice. I'm guessing you have by your name.
I don't know. I would love to say I've made the choice, but I feel like part of me is still on the fence. I'm trying to get on the side of it.
Oh, well, mate, it's all our own journey at the end of the day.
Yeah.
All I can do is say what I believe. You know what I mean? Where are you on your journey? Talk about it if you want. Mate, this is a therapy session. You got a free ear to listen here to get anything off your chest. I'm not sure. I don't charge. So yeah, anything you want to talk about with your journey, anything that's been difficult maybe that other people could relate to, feel free.
I think it's more of my belief system. I want to believe in the most purest thing there is. I want to believe that we are truly being watched over. I want to believe that there is a good ending to all of this, but a part of me doesn't see it. And I think a part of that is listening to what other people have to say about history, because their interpretation of what they've seen about history has been manipulated. So I don't think any of us truly know what has gone on thousands of years ago. So that's my struggle of trying to jump on this. I don't want to say the train, but trying to jump over to our fully faith-based into Christ. I've gone to church, and it sucks. The church I went to, my friend's dad was the pastor, and the son is just he was a mess. He's done some bad things when I was with him. So a lot of these things, I just don't see this purity in people who claim to be of God. So I myself claim I believe I'm part of God's journey, but I don't have this faith.
The thing about churches, one thing I say about churches is I don't go to a church, and I wasn't raised in a church either. I came to Christ later in life, about 3 years, 3 years ago. I kind of accepted it, and I tried to get into a church recently nearby. And I found one at Calvary. It was really good. It was nice, to be with these people who believe what I believed. It was nice to have some fellowship for a short while, but it was a relatively non-denominational church, but they seemed to have some kind of connection to the Catholic Church in some way, in the way the programs for charity they run are kind of run through this conglomerate of churches. But it was quite separate from that, and it wasn't in like a stereotype church building. It was in just like a community center. I kind of like that, because it was less eccentric, I suppose. It was more just people getting together to worship Christ, and I like that idea. It wasn't about the building; it was about the people. But when I got there, first of all, I was greeted by a woman who was looking at me thinking, who was a stranger. They've never seen this person before, and he's on his own. How old is he? And she said to me, well, this is really more of a family church.
Oh.
And all I could think was, I thought it was supposed to be a church family.
Okay. Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's all I could think. It's kind of okay. So that's the bad first impressions. But I actually got to meet the pastor who run the whole thing. And he was great. He was actually really nice. I'd emailed him prior saying I was coming down, and when I finally got to talk to him, he was like, no, just take your time, get to know everyone here, and I'll introduce you to people here and there. And I went a few times, and there's something about it which, as someone who wasn't raised in a church, found very difficult to get on with. It was too nice it wasn't as realistic as the stuff I was getting online to do with Christ, you know, about the conspiracy and the suffering in the world. It was kind of more about denying that existed and all just being love and happiness all the time. And I guess that has its place, especially in a family church. But I really wanted the kind of fellowship where people knew the truth. Do you know what I mean? And I don't think it's in the churches, from my own experience.
Yep.
And it worries me, you know, that these people will never know. So I had a word, you know, with the pastor. I actually got invited around to his house to have a cup of tea and biscuits with his wife, and she was fascinated because he actually saw my channel. That's how he saw my testimony about demons, and he wanted to talk. He was like, "It's so weird. Like, how old are you? How do you know all these things?" And you know what I mean? You know more, like, just as much as me and this type of stuff. And it's kind of, well, really? You know, I was kind of like, really?
Yeah.
I know more than you, someone who's been running a church for 20 years, about really, really out there subjects like the Nephilim or angels. And you know, it's kind of unbelievable. I couldn't believe it. And it's kind of like, I don't think I belong at this church. I don't think I'm going to be able to continue with this type of fellowship, you know, of ignorance. Because a guy got up and did a sermon, and he started preaching about refugees and how we need to take more refugees into the UK, and it's the Christian thing to do, and you can't deny these children, and to deny these children is not Christian. And he got really like preachy about it. And it's kind of like, from what I've researched, you know, these refugees aren't children, and they're of a completely different faith that is not compatible, and they want to kill us. and you're here preaching that we need to tolerate death and murder of our fellow.
Yeah.
And it's kind of at that point I realized these people don't know. They really don't know. And I said my piece, essentially. I said what I believed, and I haven't really been back since. But they were lovely people. They were really nice people, you know, the nicest Christians I've ever met in my entire life. But it's just, I can't fit in that atmosphere. It's too naive.
Yep.
It's not useful, in my opinion. You know, it's not what we need right now as a church. And I find I have more fellowship with Christians and the ability to talk with them here online on a daily basis. You know what I mean? And people like yourself. And maybe the church will come online. You don't need a building to worship God. You are the building. You are the temple of God. God dwells within you. You know what I mean? We are the temple of God. So, and that's a very new age concept, isn't it? You know, when you think, but it's not at all. It's biblical through and through. But the new age likes to think about it like, God is in me, therefore I am God. That's kind of the mistake they make. I think is a mistake anyway. But yeah, I mean, try not to let churches or church leaders put you off Christianity is all I'm going to say. You know what I mean? Information, if they don't have it, they don't have it. If they don't know, they don't know. There's not really much you can do about that. And yeah, men are evil and sinners. you can't judge God based on the works of men. That's the problem a lot of people have with the Bible. They look at the stuff the men were doing in those days and blame God. It's kind of something we have to kind of see past. It's a bit more fifth dimensional than that, I suppose, or something. Yeah. Right, man. I think I might have to start wrapping it up now. We've been talking for a long time. Is there anything you want to say as a finishing note before we leave? Anything you want to summarize on?
I don't think so. I think we did a good job.
Good stuff, man. Well, it was fantastic speaking to you. I
appreciate
good talking
it.
To you.
Thank you for having me.
Not a problem. Anytime, and we'll be doing it again. People listening out there, this is obviously the first show. We've obviously had a couple of people call in, and I'd like to thank both of them. It's been fantastic. A lot of deep things, and thank you for people in the chat giving me subjects to talk about, because this is much easier than me trying to think of things on the spot myself. You know, having that dialogue with the subscriber base. If you like what I've done here and you want to support the channel, I do have a PayPal account, and I'll put the link in the description box of this video. Feel free to donate anything you want at all. You don't have to, though. Like I said, I do have a job, so I don't need the money. But if you feel free to do that. And other than that, we'll be doing it again. If you want to call in next time, I think I might make this a relatively regular weekly show. So keep your eye out. I'll try and give a bit more notice next time for when the next show is. My schedule is hectic. I rarely have the same day off every week. So it might not be, weekly on the dot every day, but I will try and do one a week. So get some questions ready. Get some topics ready. Anything you are angry about, anything you just want to vent about and get all your anger and rage out about, any particular topic you're scared of maybe, or you're very worried about, or anything at all, conspiracy related, I am here to listen. We're all here to listen, and let's build a stronger community together with this, okay? Thank you, everyone. Thanks for coming. God bless, and we'll speak to you again soon.